But what surprised most Christians is I was born a Jew. This is what goes on inside the heart of every Jew, even a Jew that says, I'm no longer Jewish. In our hearts, we know I was born a Jew and I'll die a Jew. So when a Christian comes up to us Jewish people and says, you too can be a Christian, there was one other thing every Jew knows, because the rabbis told us this lie. You cannot be Jewish and believe in Jesus. That's like saying you couldn't be female and believe in Jesus. Or it's like saying you can't be Jewish and believe in the Jewish Messiah based on the Jewish prophecies out of the Jewish Bible. Give me a break. That's called meshuggah. That's a Hebrew word for crazy. I had a goal, and I got this goal from my real educator, television. And the goal was, if I had $1 million, I'd be happy. And of course, I want to be happy. And I'm 29 years of age, married, good job, good wife, good daughter. Unhappy because I wanted to be a millionaire by 30. I'm 29. So I did something I'm not proud of, Laura Lynn. I left my wife. I left my daughter. I left my job. And I went searching for happiness. And I went searching in all the wrong places, singles bars. Do you know, I think the loneliest people in the world are at singles bars. Have you ever seen these bars in the daylight? They're filthy. That's why they keep it so dark. Things were even worse than they began. And one of my salesmen, I had a salesman working for me at the time. I had my own mutual fund life insurance agency. And one of my salesmen said, Sid, I have a friend that took a mind expansion course. And as a result, he knows things that will happen in the future. And I thought to myself, I can become a millionaire, Laura Lynn. Why? I know how to invest in the market. If I know what's going to happen in the future, of course I'll become a millionaire and I'll be happy. Well, what I found out, of course, with this gray hair especially, what I found out was the most important things in life money can't buy. Money can't buy a good marriage. Money cannot buy can't help you if your child is out on the streets as a drug addict. Money can't help you if your wife runs off with your business partner. Money can't help you if a doctor says, I'm sorry to report you have a tumor of the brain and you have about a month to live. No, the most important things in life, money cannot purchase. But I didn't realize it. And so I took this mind expansion course. I'll mention the name, but the thousands of them. They were good people trying to accomplish good, but they were deceived, and I didn't know that. It was called Silva Mind Control, that particular one, but there's thousands with different names now. That's why it doesn't matter. They taught me how to meditate, lower my concentration, almost go into a hypnotic state and invite a familiar spirit. They didn't call that. They called it an imaginary friend. They called it familiar spirit, which it was. I never would have done it, even though I didn't even believe in such things. But they called it imaginary friend who'll tell you things that'll happen in the future. I did it. It worked. And I was off to the races, so to speak, for happiness. Well, it got progressively worse. Um, I, as I said, I'd left my wife and daughter and job, and went to sales bars. And that didn't bring me happiness, and I wasn't getting any happier. But at least now I'm going to make this $1 million, and all of a sudden, um, I had the thought, I want to get a new office. And a businessman walks up to me right after that thought. See, this counselor I had inside of me, or a demon or a familiar spirit, I didn't know those words before, was doing what I asked it to do. But it plays a game. It'll do what you ask it to do until it's got a hold on you, and then it's too late. and then it'll
Wow.
do what it wants.
And
Then it'll
and
do
if
what it wants to do.
yeah,
I got in way over my head. I got into astral projection. That's where your spirit leaves your body. I had I had worse thoughts. Did you ever hear of Rod Serling, Twilight Zone?
yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I could write a script much better than Rod Serling ever did for Twilight Zone. Um, I got in this astral projection. I was afraid my spirit would leave my body and not make it back in time. And you can imagine the thoughts I had. I was afraid to go to sleep at night because every time I went to sleep, I broke into this astral projection. And
Wow.
so, if you don't sleep too long, you have problems. I had some Christian friends that were really giving me the business. They started out very nice, but then they said, Sid, in your own Jewish Bible, God condemns your involvement in the New Age. God condemns your involvement in the occult. God condemns your going to fortune tellers. Why? Because he wants you to go to him. He doesn't want you to go to a false god, a wrong path. See, the supernatural realm is real, but if you go in on not on God's terms, you suffer severe consequences. Deuteronomy chapter 18 calls it an abomination to be involved in going to psychics, witches, fortune tellers, uh, palm readers, communicating with the dead. And it lists all of these things God calls an abomination because you're going to get into the invisible world, but not with God. And that's what happened to me. And then I realized for sure this voice I was hearing inside of me wasn't God. It was a demon based on the Torah, Deuteronomy 18. For sure it was. And I just wanted out. But what does a Jewish person do, Laura Lynn, that has a demon inside of them, that knows the demons inside of them? Can I go to a rabbi? He'd refer me to a psychiatrist. Uh, there was nowhere I could go. Even my Jewish mother would have done anything for me. I couldn't even go to her with this. Mom, I have a demon. What should I do? There's nothing, nothing. She'd send me the psychiatrist. So there's nothing I could do. So the worst night of my life, they'd given me this Bible. They had this Deuteronomy 18 that said I had opened myself up to a demon, a familiar spirit. I put the Bible under my pillow. I had the mezuzah around my neck, and I prayed a simple prayer. Jesus, two-word prayer. Jesus, help. And I tried to go to sleep because I hadn't been able to sleep. And I fell asleep. When I woke up that morning, there was someone else in my room. The whole room was the atmosphere of God. The whole room was the atmosphere of heaven. The whole room was the atmosphere of shalom, of peace. The whole room was electric with the life of God. I felt so much. I've never been on drugs, so I can't tell you what that's like. But I can tell you this, the peace that I experienced from going to a position where I didn't want to live, life was too hard. It was the greatest feeling I ever had in my life. And then I heard the audible voice of God, and this is what he said, Laura Lynn. I hate divorce. He actually quoted from a Jewish prophet by the name of Malachi, return to your wife and daughter. And you know what, Laura Lynn? I returned to my wife and daughter. God restored my mind. God gave me intimacy with God. And now I didn't understand this at the time, but I do now. The glory, the atmosphere of heaven, the goodness of God, the peace of God flooded my room. The demon inside of me couldn't take the heat. It left. And I said to God, who said, return to your wife and daughter, I said, I didn't give him any excuses. I said, yes, sir.